Hello.
Hello. Oh, hi, Pax. How's it do? How's it going?
I'm doing good.
Glad to hear it. Do you have anything exciting planned for the rest of today?
I don't think so.
You don't think so? I know you guys were working quite a lot the last couple of weeks, working on your Lego designs and everything. I'm glad you guys were able to have a lot of fun with that. Now, we are almost ready to get started. Thank you, everybody, for being here. And especially thank Professor Lowe and his team here as well. Professor Lowe, if you don't mind making me a co-host so I can share my screen.
Oh, of course. Sorry about that. Here you go.
Thank you so much. Okay, wonderful. All right, and I would just like to once again thank everybody for being here to this year-end in review 2022, where we're going to talk with Professor Lowe on some of the new advancements in education in math, and what he has been seeing as the trends and where we should go for next year, how we should look at planning for what we want to learn. I would also like to especially thank our guest panelists that we have here today. We'll be speaking and introducing them in just a couple of minutes. Once again, Cornerstone Education is very excited to present this community webinar with Professor Lowe, and we will also like to thank our community partners, the Center for Future Innovators as well. My name is Tim Hu, and as many of you know, I grew up here in Chicago. The last couple of years, I've been dedicated to improving access to education and mental health resources in not just the Asian American community, but also other local communities in the Chicago area. Recently, I have taken on the role of CEO of Cornerstone Education, where I will continue to work with outstanding students from around the world. And it is my distinguished honor to welcome Professor Lowe. He, as many of you know, is a social entrepreneur, inventor, and educator in the spectrum of math. And he is currently a math professor at Carnegie Mellon and the national coach for the U.S. International Math Olympiad team. Everybody can check out more of his information at the website that's on the bottom of his page. So thank you, Professor Lowe, for being here with us.
Of course.
With here today also, we have three very special guest panelists. We have Pax Liu, who is a fifth grader at Graham Elementary. We have Ms. Tracy Pan. She is a parent and software engineer. Ms. Prachi Kumar, she is a parent and a vice president for Asurian, as well as has many years of expertise in enterprise as an enterprise architect. So please welcome all of our guest panelists here today. Like I mentioned earlier, one of the things that we're going to be talking about is how we've looked at math and how we've looked at education in the last couple of years. Before that, let's do some more fun little icebreaker questions. So just for instance, one of my favorite things to talk about has always been food. I love different kinds of food, and being from the Chicagoland area, one of the most famous foods that we have is pizza. So everybody, what is your favorite pizza toppings? I'm going to start since I came up with a question. My favorite pizza toppings are sausage, green peppers, and onions. I think you can't go wrong with those three. What about Pax? What do you think?
So I like mushrooms and peppers. No, green peppers and white mushrooms. Those are the best toppings you could ever have on your pizza.
That does sound really fresh. I can kind of smell that mushroom and green peppers together already.
Every time my mom buys us the ingredients, I just make it.
Oh, really? That's awesome. I think making pizzas is one of my favorite things to do as a kid and with my family as well. That's really cool. What about you, Professor Lowe?
Oh, I like the sausage and mushroom combination.
Sausage and mushroom, that's a classic. And Ms. Kumar?
Oh, me. Okay. Actually, I like tomatoes. Can you imagine tomato sauce on more tomatoes? Yeah.
The classic, right? I think that's how they do it. You know, in Europe, they have a lot more tomato slices on pizza. So yeah, I can definitely see that. And Miss Pan?
I like mushroom. Definitely mushroom. More and more mushroom.
Yeah, I do love mushrooms, and yeah, I
I'm going to try
completely agree.
mushrooms next.
Okay, and now something a little bit more math related. This is the question for any of our panelists or anybody here today that's listening. If you could have a math themed superpower, what would it be? Now, what do I mean by math theme? Anything. It could be maybe doing with probability, dealing with shapes, dealing with quantity. If you could have a math themed superpower. Luke, I see your hand raised.
I think it would be good to have the probability. The ability to change the probability of basically literally anything happening. So basically, I can just like change the probability of me having like literally every superpower imaginable, and then I have all the superpowers.
That's definitely one way to think about it.
Yeah, I can just, like change it to 100%.
Yeah, changing everything to 100% success rate on everything that you do. That would be very interesting. Pax.
It's more like mine is more of a test thing. If it's more like a math competition, I would choose like Mr. Lowe has been teaching us to do many different solutions, so I can pick which one's best for me and then do it the way faster. But if it was a normal test in school or in my other class, RSM, I would choose that to be a human calculator because it's more likely to have an order of operations or things like that.
Absolutely. Wow, those are very practical uses of powers. I think, you know, the first one, being able to immediately think of multiple solutions and being able to pick from them would be quite useful no matter what you want to do.
Or just the power to know the answer.
That would be nice too, of course. Any of our parents?
That would be a tough one. I would love to be a genius in P versus NP problems. I don't know, kids, I'm sorry if this is getting too far over, but yes, NP completeness is something that we all struggle for, whoever is in this engineering field at work, yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely, I can definitely see that. Okay, now thank you so much for answering those questions and from our audience members as well. Now, a little bit more directly related to our discussion here today. This is for Professor Lowe and for the parents here. How has math impacted your own education and your own careers?
Wow, I guess since I was mentioned, I should say something. But I first want to ask, because my internet connection seems to not be the most stable. Are you guys able to hear when I talk? Is it clear or is it garbled?
It's
Pretty good. Yeah.
It's pretty good. Okay. Is my video okay or is it frozen?
No, everything's good.
Oh, okay. Okay, very good. Then I'll just keep going. Yeah, so I guess how has math impacted, education and life? To me, I think that the biggest thing is that the math that I learned from math contests taught me how to come up with my own way to solve problems. And these days, most of the work that I do involves coming up with a different way to do things than what everyone else does in the world, which I think is the heart of innovation. I didn't say anything about doing math problems quickly or correctly or drilling. I'm saying that the most important thing that I got was to learn how to come up with my own way to do things.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much. What about Ms. Pan?
I think math definitely impact greatly on my education and career. I got actually 2 master degrees. One is in Master of Engineering in Chemical Engineering from University of Singapore. And I also got a computer science master degree from Illinois Institute of Technology. So if I'm not good at math, I'm not saying that I'm excelled at math, but I need to learn a lot of math courses during the school. And also right now I'm working as a software engineer. So you can know that we are actually dealing with math problems, actually a lot of logic and mathematics involved every day in my life, in my working area. Yeah. So
Absolutely. Thank you for saying that. And I think that's the case for many of the, individuals who work in the STEM fields or in any other fields. Really, math really revolves around us no matter what we want to do. Even, me studying music for my bachelor's, there are so many things in music that is math related. And there's just, different ways in art and music and culture where you see how numbers and how math has really affected us. What about you, Ms. Kumar?
Oh, that is true. I mean, math applications are everywhere, as you mentioned, Tim. And for me personally, studying math, so I was part of Motorola when we were first launching our GSM, CDMA, and even LTE, right? You would be fascinated by how much of cell phone technology has been enabled by all the transformations we do in math, right? Everything is a time and frequency transformation, right? And all these transformations, kids, is nothing but squares and additions and logs, right? Which is basics of everything. So, these basic building blocks, how they realize applications, how they enable lives in a different way is definitely fascinating. As time goes on, simple things you learn can enable complicated things in a simple way. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I think those are great points that you've made and something that we really should think about, not just for the parents here, especially for some of our younger listeners today. There are so many ways that you can use math in the future in different careers. And, that's something that we will talk a little bit more about, I'm sure, today in our discussion. I do have a quick question for Pax. So Pax, can you introduce a little bit more about yourself and maybe some of the math programs you've participated in?
So I'm 10 and in the 5th grade, as shown earlier. And I like a math, PE, and art classes in school, but sometimes, well, most of the time, school math is easier than what I would expect or to meet my requirement. So I joined RSM so I could do more math problems and get higher level math. And now I've joined Mr. Lowe's class, which he teaches me how to find more solutions in those problems I learn inside of RSM. So yeah, it's pretty much.
That's awesome. So through these different kind of classes, do you think that it has helped you in maybe understanding different concepts or being able to apply it to anywhere else in your life?
Well, I think that Professor Lowe and the RSM classes have taught me more than what my school would have. And I think that'll help me later inside school or, well, my future job, which I don't know what's going to be. So
That's okay. You have a lot of time to explore. Now, I also understand that you've taken part in some robotics programs too.
yeah, I did WRO last season, and our team got 7th place inside of the robot part, but our innovation didn't turn out to be as good as we thought. But we still earned the regional First Star Award or Rising Star Award. So yeah, that's something we were proud of. And Ethan and Luke here are also part of that team.
That's right. Yes, thank you,
FLL,
Ethan.
sorry.
Wait, hold up. Wasn't it the FLL?
Yes,
Yeah.
Ethan was mentioning that as well. It was
I'm
part
just
of
dumb, okay?
No, that's all right, Pax. You have a lot of different kind of programs going on. I always, get those all mixed up too. So that's part of the first Lego League program. So now for Professor Lowe, you've been traveling around the country, speaking with different schools and parents and community members. So what are some insights do you have on the progress that we've made in how we approach education here in the US?
Wow, okay, that's an interesting question. Is the context you're asking something like in light of the events that happened over the last year, or just kind of in general?
Oh, just in general, or
Sure.
anything that you've,
Yeah. I should say nowadays I'm thinking about quite a bit more than the US also. In fact, hello everybody from Saudi Arabia. I'm currently in Saudi Arabia. I just flew here today from Manila, Philippines, and last week I was in Hong Kong. I was talking in a lot of different school and educational contexts in all of these places. But when I look at the way that we approach math and education, the way I think of it is, well, actually, I should say nowadays I go into all different kinds of educational backgrounds too. I mean, as you know, I work with the strongest math students in the country. I also work with teachers. Actually, yesterday in Philippines, there were 400 teachers attending a seminar. But I also run sessions for teachers in the United States too. But I also go to normal schools in the US, as well as schools in the US which are struggling. Sometimes I go, actually not just sometimes, nowadays I run a scholarship program for underserved students, searching for high motivation, low access students. And that takes me into teaching 6th grade as the 6th grade teacher at schools where sometimes you have to pass a metal detector to go in the door. So I work across the entire spectrum. And so what I see now is, I see that really there's a big challenge to try to make sure everyone has the basic skills. That's a difficult problem in itself. And that is where a lot of the regular instruction happens. I've also seen that whenever you do that, there are two sides that are a little bit missed. One side is the group that is struggling, and one side is the group that is excelling. As we often see, a lot of energy is put towards the side which is struggling, and rightfully so. They need some attention. They need more attention. But when it comes to the people who are excelling, well, then that's a different question. And I guess the main observations I've been making are that if you are excelling, in some sense, it's good to then take put additional effort towards math. I just wanted to say this is the main thing I've observed, which is that it can feel like everything is okay because you're already excelling. Excelling meaning maybe that you're in the top 10%. But actually what that means is that you're not realizing your full potential. And my insight to this is just observing that when you actually think about what it takes to teach a regular classroom, in the regular classroom, your effort is really on the middle and maybe helping the people who are at the bottom. But as you start traveling around the world, then you notice that there's an internationally competitive landscape, lots of opportunities. The world has gone global. And if you stay put saying that you're good enough being in the top 10% of regular math, you're really shortchanging yourself.
I think that's an amazing point to make here, and something that, I think all of our parents would be glad to hear. Most of us, especially any of our parents or community partners, have really been encouraged by the programs that you have, Professor Lowe, but also other community partners in really helping, giving more opportunities to students. Now, for either of our parents here, how do you think, participating in some of these programs, or, participating in some of these harder math classes, programs such as RSM or AMC 8 has helped your child? So Ms. Kumar or Ms. Pan?
Sorry, the question is how these programs have helped us, or
Yes, how do you see these programs have helped your children, or what they've gotten or what they've benefited from these programs?
I think for one thing, these programs are, you can say, completely different from what school education in math is. So the way it has helped is to grow your brain in a different way, right? That school education in math does not teach you. I mean, you can be great at solving word problems in school, but you will be really bad at solving problems that are actually asked in math competitions. And that's the bridge that these programs cover. And maybe you're good at both, but it's very rarely I've seen that, sometimes child does not get a lot of acceleration in school, but they are awesome at these competitions. So I feel it excites your brain in a different way, because you have to make a lot more connections than actually go deeper in a concept.
Yeah, absolutely. And for Ms. Pan, what are your thoughts on this?
I definitely think the advanced math programs helped Pax a lot to build up his confidence, and also this helped him to rethink those problems, and then in return he can help his friends and the students in the class. He feels that's a great advantage when he studied in those programs and have benefits from that. Even his room teacher mentioned that to us when we joined the teacher parents conference. He told us Pax was willing to help students in his class, and he likes to explain to them how to solve the problem instead just to give his friends the answer. So I double checked with Pax. He confirmed that he learned a lot of ways from those programs, and he loved to improve his thinking, and even he tried to teach his friends. Yeah.
Thank you. I think those are that's an amazing point to make, and that is something that I think is great for any student to be able to help retain their own information, is by teaching others. Ms. Kumar, would you mind sharing a little bit about the different programs that your children have taken part of?
Or as far as math competitions go, they're part of, I think their school has many competitions that it's an after school program they attend, which is called the Math Club, and they do various competitions like MOEMs and AMC. Math Kangaroo is another one. But yeah, they are part of Russian School of Math as well. And yeah, I think both of my kids are about 2 grades ahead in math. So yeah, the 7th grader is doing high school math, and my 5th grader is doing middle school math. Yes.
Right. And both being in a very competitive school district as well. So yes,
but
yeah,
I think it's different. You can accelerate, but I think math competition is just different than regular education. And even I feel Russian School of Math is different than math competitions.
Yes, I would completely agree. Different ways of thinking, but at the end of the day,
there's strategies.
Yes, absolutely. So Professor Lowe, when we're thinking about, how different school districts approach education, or how different even families approach education, what are some common pitfalls that you see families getting into, or, students getting stuck on?
I think the biggest one is when people are focusing too much on the short-term exam results, and then instead decide to try to find something that will drill and give people practice. Specifically, what I mean is, if you're trying to just boost the short-term results, sometimes people want a class where people will show you a complicated concept, a complicated method of solving a problem, and then you go and practice a bunch of them. This is actually quite common. And so the learning style consists of just watching the teacher show you something complicated, and then you go practice 10 of them with the hope that when that exact same problem comes up again, or problem type comes up again on a test, you'll do it well. That's the biggest pitfall, because it seems like it makes sense, but actually that throws away the entire opportunity, which was to learn how to think. What I mean by this is that in other countries, not US. There are a lot of exams coming up in short term, such as exams at the end of elementary school, end of middle school, and so on. And since other countries have those high stakes exams, of course, it's important to practice so that you can do well on those short term exams. But in the United States, there actually is no high stakes exam. In fact, most of the top universities no longer even focus on the SAT. If anything, they look at the AMC, but even then, they look at whether or not you can adaptively think of new ideas. And so earlier when I said there's a big opportunity if your kid is in the top 10% of their class, the big opportunity is that now you actually can go deeper and start learning how to think. So the main thing I say is if you're ever going to learn, so first of all, if your kid is getting an A in math class in school, if they're in the top 10%, well, then what you should do is you should not have them take any class where the teaching style consists of the teacher showing you a method and then drilling and practice. Because instead you should use your advantage, your advantage because you're ahead, use your advantage to take some more time and to learn in a way where the teacher gives you a problem, where you and your classmates have to think for a while, brainstorm ideas. And the optimal way to learn is that as you tell your ideas to the teacher should dynamically use your ideas to make a new solution, instead of then continuing just to show the teacher's own solution. I put this out as a major pitfall because unfortunately, it's very, very common that people go the wrong way here, most likely because the methods they've been used to from countries that they came from were around systems which are heavy on exams in the short term.
Thank you for bringing that up. And I think that's what we've seen as well, where some parents are really worried maybe in a math class, especially in some of these more advanced math classes, students are covering maybe just 1 or 2 problems per class because they're really discussing, how they should approach the problem and the different ways that you can approach the problem rather than having a method that you can follow that directly answers and provides you with a solution. I think that's something that a lot of parents can really think about in the ways that they approach math for their students and how their teachers approach math for their students as well.
I also want to throw another thing in here to contrast, just because what you just said made me think about how I do know that sometimes people are not happy with if a teacher just goes and talks and talks and talks about different ways of solving the question, thinking that's not covering enough. I want to be a bit clear here, a bit more clear here. Sometimes that's not good either. The specific thing I was talking about was students should say their ideas. Teachers should use the students' ideas to create a solution to the problem, instead of teacher just saying, well, here is a very complicated way you could think about it. Sometimes that's what parents are complaining about. Sometimes what happens is the students found a way and the teacher says, no, okay, very, very nice, but let me go and show you a very thoughtful way that none of the students thought of anyway. But it's just like some new math, complicated, fancy way that parents haven't learned either, students haven't thought of. Everyone's wondering, where is this thing coming from? And it's just because it's inside the book, inside the modern book. I'm talking about something very different. I'm saying the teaching style is students come up with ideas, teachers use the students' ideas and come up with a solution. If multiple student ideas come up with multiple solutions using the students' ideas. Now that's natural and that's actually not a waste of time. But I will say one more thing. The reason why that's not so common is because that is extremely difficult to do. Because that involves that you think on the spot. And by the way, I think that is the optimal way to work with top 10% students. The teacher needs to be able to think on the spot and use any ideas the students made to come up with new solutions, even if those were not the teacher had prepared, not what the teacher had prepared in advance.
Absolutely. So Professor Loh, how do you prepare your student teachers for that? Because I know through your program, many of them are just very, very advanced and outstanding students themselves.
Well, the answer is, I don't prepare them for that. I just bring on people who already are math competition champions. Basically, what I'm saying is that, this is actually an important point, is that in the past, it wasn't that math competition champions were that involved in big education ecosystems. The sad thing is that if you ask most of the math competition champions what they wanted to do when they grew up, almost none of them said they wanted to be teachers or after-school coaches at after-school training programs. That's just not what they wanted to do. They wanted to go and do something completely different. And what makes our approach completely different is that those people in our program aren't doing this as their end goal. This is actually an innovation in itself. We have a huge army of people who are extraordinarily capable, math competition superstars, and they're teaching because they're part of our performance training program. Actually, I have a program I run for high school students where we find absolutely brilliant high school math students, and then I hire professional comedians, actors, and actresses to teach them personality and how to be interesting. They're in our program not because this is their job. They're in our program because our program increases the chance they get into Harvard, Stanford, and Princeton by helping them ace all of the interviews. So I'm saying this is a very different concoction than happened before. Usually in the education ecosystem, the people who are teaching, that's sort of their job. And that's what they chose to do. And what I was trying to figure out is, how do you unlock an entire talent base for whom they previously didn't want that job? And the answer became to understand what they actually want. And what they actually wanted was to find ways to be more successful in their crazy careers that they want. And it turns out that communication skills are central. So then I walked over to our drama department, which is one of the best in the entire country. And we hired over people to basically help high school math geniuses to become these completely well-formed people that will win in life.
Absolutely. I think that's something that everybody should really take note of, no matter, what kind of field that you want to study, being able to communicate what you what you want to say, what your ideas are, and being able to convince people. Those are important factors no matter what you want to do. I mean, that's why I think so many of our recent young successes, at least in Illinois, have been members of the debating team, members of, congressional debate, who really are capable of talking about themselves and talking about what they hope for and explaining the different challenges that they might want to face. So yeah, those are really important things that parents and students alike can really think about. No matter what you want to do, being able to communicate is something that you will have to learn, and that's something that we all have to work on, even myself included. So I have a question for Pax. So Pax, I know you've taken these kind of different math classes and programs. What are some of your, favorite experiences or favorite parts of participating in some of these classes?
The main thing that I like about these classes is just the learning part and me getting to know more people that also like math like me. So yeah.
That's awesome. So are you able to make friends with, are these students from your city? Are they from around the country?
In RSM, I have a lot of classmates that I meet in person, like Myra or a person named Bo, but they're all my friends now since I've joined a new class that also has things that I can learn even more about and people I can know.
That's awesome. And I think that's something that's really important to not just kids, but for parents, being able to find a community of people that, have the same interests, that want the same things for their children. I think that's something that is really important to nurturing our next generation of talent, for sure. Now for our parents here, what are some things that you worry about or you have questions about as your kids are approaching high school and are trying these more advanced topics?
I think I have a question for Professor Lowe. It is along the lines of what he said, that colleges are really not even looking at SAT scores. They are interested in looking at how you did an AMC, right? So I suppose to be great at AMC versus having a great, you can say, AP honors class in mathematics. I mean, ideally you would have both, but if given a choice of one or the other, where should the kid focus their time on, right? And because ultimately you run out of hours in the day to do everything.
Yeah, well, I think that the choice between the two only happens if you are participating in programs which are very exam focused and results focused, in the sense that if you're just in some program where all they do is practice AMC problems or they try to teach you AMC strategies, then unfortunately you're splitting your effort, because you might, then they'll give you AMC, but it won't give you AP. But if you actually just learn how to think, which is that teaching style I talked about before, that is independent of whether you're learning AMC or AP. Anyone who learns how to think and to come up with their own ideas basically does well, can do much better in AMC and finds AP extremely easy. What I mean is, that's why I say it's a pitfall, because earlier on in life, it can seem like just the plain drill method gives you an advantage, because drilling is pretty efficient, pretty fast, and you can very well practice how to do areas of circles, area of triangles, all of the basic stuff. The reason why it gets more complicated when you get to AP is because there's too much to just memorize. When you get to AMC, also too much to just memorize. At that point, the people who actually learned how to synthesize their own ideas end up ahead, because then they don't base everything on memorization. Instead, they base everything on the fact that if they see something, they can create things on the spot. So that's why actually you really want to just focus on that piece. You'll automatically get the AMC, you'll automatically get the AP. But if you want to know about point of view of college admissions, because that's also what I work with, because as was just shared into the chat, I work with all these high school students who are off the charts. In fact, I've been writing letters of recommendation. I've been writing letters of recommendation for them to all these various top schools. And as we do this, I've been thinking about, what is it that the school actually wants? And it's quite clear. What the school really wants is they want people who will be as likely as possible to be successful in life. That's not the same as saying just get a high score. And what we've seen in this world is that people who actually just have high scores but don't have other things, they're actually more limited in life. So that's why, for example, the universities often have an interview as a component. Actually, if we think about things that happened this year, probably the development of this new GPT-3 thing, as you must know from the IT side, this is revolutionary and is going to change all of college admissions fundamentally, because the college essay is going to be useless. So in fact, the most important part of your college application is going to be having done some things that are strong, okay, but also having a very strong interview during which the interviewer can see that you're adaptive, you're actually passionate about what you do, you're a genuine person, and your letters of recommendation where the people are very impressed by you. That's related to the AP class, because you see, what some students don't realize is that the teacher's role is more than just to give you an A for getting the points. If you view the teacher as a purely transactional relationship where you're just going to do the test, by the way, some students just completely ignore the class. They just go home, quickly do the homework, and then get a perfect score on the exam. But in the class, they are checked out and not even very respectful. That's a very weak letter of recommendation they get from the teacher, and they don't know that. They think that they asked the teacher for a letter, and the teacher gave them a letter, so it must be done. But the teacher's letter actually just says, this student got an A+ in my class. And that's basically it. And whenever the college application officers see a letter like that, they know this is a student who has no depth of passion. It's just that the only thing they could do in that class is get an A+, and that's the only impression the teacher had of them. So I'm just emphasizing that in the United States system, it's completely different from systems in some other countries, where in the other countries, it's purely, do you get a score? If you get a score, you pass. In the United States, the score alone is the weak part. It's the rest of the human being. And actually, that's what translates into the real success in the real world anyway.
Yeah, thank you.
I think that's an amazing point, Professor Lowe. It really, being able to think about different ways that we can approach things, but also, losing my train of thought here. Anyways, so can we talk a little bit more about the different kinds of growth mindset that we want to have as somebody who is learning more in math and who really wants to push themselves? What should students do when they get frustrated? What are some ways that students can help themselves?
Are you asking me?
Yes.
Okay, great. I think that the most important thing is to just keep trying to think instead of saying, oh, someone's going to show me how to do it soon. See, my style is that I like the thrill of the hunt. If someone tells me how to do it, I feel like now it's no fun. You've already told me how to do it. And so I will sometimes say, don't tell me the whole thing. Please give me a hint instead. But my point is, this is the mindset. The ideal mindset to have is one where you're not trying to just get it over with. Instead, it's actually a challenge, and the fun part is in the challenge. Now, that's the mindset we want to move everyone towards. How do you get there? That's where we as coaches, teachers, and parents, we need to make it so that the students understand that we're not just focused on the exam score and the exam result, but we're focused on whether or not they enjoy actually thinking about it. That's why I said earlier so many times about this thing of, let's not just focus on saying, I mean, I've heard classes, I've seen YouTube recordings of classes before where a teacher even says explicitly, pay attention, so that if you ever see this problem again on the test, you'll be able to do it. And then you also see the same teacher say, okay, now let's practice 10 times so that when the question comes again, you've already done it and you'll be fast and accurate. I've actually heard this on YouTube recordings of classes. And what I say is, that's not the growth mindset, is it? Like, that's what you just said was something completely different. What I'm saying is that the kinds of words that we or teachers or I mean, coaches of these classes that we put our kids in, these kinds of phrases that we tell our students, they can cause the students to actually just want to know, come on, can you just tell me how to do it? And that's all there is to it.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. Now, from our parent side, what are some ways that you've seen that can help your child, or some maybe challenges that you've seen that your child has faced when they're going through these problems in education and math?
Yeah, I think that's what I worried, before, because like as Pax said, he joined the ISM program a couple of years ago, but we just joined Dr. Lowe's class last fall. Since I think Pax showed a lot of interest and capability in the Excel math. He has studied I think 7th grade math in RSM, but after he joined open class by Dr. Low, he found very, very interesting, and looks like Dr. Low opened a new window for him. But I worry is, yes, like he's preparing for the math competition, but as everyone knows, math competition is different from all other programs and the school programs. So I was worrying, like, if taking MC8 next year, but we'll have a bad score, what will be, the negative impact? But from parents' side, I'm always encouraging, students, like Pax, like what Dr. Low mentioned before, don't focus on the score itself, focus on the things you have learned, focus on the ways that you have been thinking, and to see if you have improved that way. I can see definitely this is a great strategy, and this is what we expect to, but like what other things you think it will it will help children who just join, a math competition to overcome, their fears or their worries? I would like to have more suggestions from Dr. Law or other parents.
Yeah, I guess I can just quickly say, I think that it's very healthy to start taking AMC8 when you're in a very young grade, because the expectations are automatically low. It's safest to do that because then you get a low score, and it's okay because you're young anyway. And the funny thing is, when you do that, it will actually make you better. And then the next time you take it, you somehow will score better than the previous time. And if you start young enough, I mean, actually, it's not too late. He can do it this year. He's in 5th grade. I would actually recommend, if you enter this year, go ahead. Even if the score is low, so what? If anything, that just gives him the experience of it. And then it gives him a benchmark that next year, whether you want it or not, he will already be thinking himself, comparing the year to the previous year. See, here's my point. My point is that parents often will put on these absolute hopes. It's like, I hope you get a score in this percentile or this. And you might not say it, but maybe that's what they feel. But whether you say anything or not, every single person still wants to do better this year than they did last year. This is an automatic human instinct. I mean to say, independent of how ambitious you are for anyone, independent of how ambitious I am for my kids or my students, whatever they got last time, they want to do better this time. It's just somehow very natural. So it's good to start early, because then you'll want to do better than you did last time. And you have enough times, right? I mean, it only has 25 questions. If you just could take it 26 times, you're okay. You know, you try and get one more point. Only problem is you cannot take the AMC8 at age -13. But regardless, I would just say go ahead and take it when the expectations are low, and you'll never know what will happen.
Thank you. Yeah,
Hi, Tim.
that's very helpful.
Hi, Tim. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm Ethan's mom, and I have a question for Professor Low. I always struggle because I teach my son Ethan by myself, because he play hockey, and hockey is his hobby, and he practice 3 times on a weekly basis, and he need to play 2 games on the weekend. So he's very busy. So I have to teach him by myself. My challenge is how to make the math education more fun for him, because sometimes it's because of my way of teaching. He think math is boring, but he also take another class from a teacher, Brian Meadows, and he think teacher Brian is funny, and he want to learn from teacher Brian. So my challenge is how I can make math education more fun, and also my challenge is how to convince my son to take the class from Professor Low. And he's in the Zoom meeting right now. So if you can motivate him to take the class, to take a math class, extra math class, not the class from his school, because sometimes I feel the class in the school is not like it's not that difficult for him, or like it's he didn't have much fun from the school.
Yeah, I think that the key to trying to help someone be interested in learning from your class is to make it so that, what I just said before, they say their ideas and then you make their ideas work. I think this adds a lot of confidence for the student. This is also way more fun, because normally when you learn, you feel like a robot. You just see someone shows you how to do it and you go practice 10 times. And I think that some people find this boring. In fact, so do I. But on the other hand, if the way that class works is it's sort of like how in hockey, you know, if you're in hockey and you're skating around, you just decide to take that shot because you think it's a good time to take the shot. It's fun to learn math in that same way, where you say, I think we can try to do this. And then the job of the teacher is help you guide that shot. And so I would recommend if you switch your teaching style to that way, that might work. The way that usually works is you need to find some good problems. This is, in fact, in the classes that we teach, the hardest thing is to make the problems. And that was a lot of work, but that's already done. So now we have all these good problems. The problems are very rich. And the problems are rich enough that the students can say their idea. If you want me to motivate why like to Ethan, like why take this class, I think that if you look at a demo of the class, you will see that it also doesn't look like a Zoom class. Ours looks more like Twitch or Instagram Live or TikTok. I'm not sure if you have those accounts, but let's just say it looks more like entertainment, because we actually put people on the screen who are very smart and also very, very interesting.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your question. And also for Ms. Kumar, were there any challenges that you saw that were ways that you were able to help your child as they went through challenges in studying math? Or if you had any other questions regarding how students can be, encouraged to pursue something in the STEM fields or math?
I think in my personal opinion is that it's very child specific, how much interest they show in thinking and how much driven are they, right? I mean, I know some kids are really STEM minded, some ones are math purely, others like art, and others like, maybe language arts. I do feel it is, whatever their interests are, you try to show them new challenges in their interests, and that's what makes it fun for them. if I try to push my son, for example, to read a novel, he would not forgive me for the 1 week, right? Yes, yes.
Yes, thank you. I know both of your children are also in many different, kind of activities, and have done great in a lot of, what they wanted to do as well. And now for our students here today, what are some ways that you think your teachers or your parents can help support you on your studies, not just in, in math, but, in other ways to learn? How can you feel more supported? Do I have any takers from our students here today? I know this might be a bit of a tough question, but do think about it. How can we support you? Oh, Ethan, we can't hear you. I see your lips moving. Oh, there we go.
Okay. Can you repeat the question again, please?
How can teachers, how can parents, how can we support you as you go about learning new things?
Let me think.
All right, while you think, I think Pax, you have an answer for us?
I think that sometimes instead of helping us with the answer of one specific problem, help us understand the concept of how to do it if we haven't learned it yet. Like once when I was doing my RSM homework, I saw a ratio, but I didn't know it. This was last year, and I went to my mom and asked her, "What does this number colon number mean?" And she said, "That's a ratio. That's like a percent compared to another thing," and she gave me a little quiz on it, and then I knew how to do that question, and instead of just showing me how to do that question, she showed me like the entire concept of it, of what the problem kind it was instead of the problem itself.
Oh, I see what you mean. So being able to, differentiate and help you find the base of what the problem is, and rather than directly solving and finding the solution. Ethan, did you have your hand up?
I didn't. Wait, I didn't. Maybe I'd say to help us learn new things, make it fun so that we're not like bored and we're like, oh, I want to do something else after they start talking about it.
I think that's a common thing that we've been hearing from a lot of different students, having it be more entertaining or be more exciting is something that we often hear. And I think that's something that, a lot of teachers do work towards. And I see a question here in the chat. Some students do quite well and get straight A's until things like AP Calculus, then they struggle. What could be a possible way to prepare them before they get to things like AP Calculus? I guess that question would be for Professor Lowe.
Yeah, those are the students who did those prep classes, or those ways of learning, which are just focused on drilling. Because actually, if you learn how to think and how to synthesize, all of the math is equally difficult all the way through. Very equally difficult. School math is actually all approachable. What I'm saying is that I can actually diagnose roughly where that breaks down. It's because usually, by the way, a lot of the way these classes are structured, these other classes are structured, is that they will try to teach you the next month's math earlier than school so that you get a high grade in school. This is actually a standard model. And in fact, they do this because of supply demand. It's what parents think that they want, which is actually wrong. But so what happens is that people will take these classes, they will go and prepare earlier for the next month's math. Now they know that month's math or the next 2 months' math. And now when it shows up in school, they've seen it before. So they just go and apply it. You see, at that stage, you don't really need to have math compounding on other math so much yet. It's that you can sort of just still hold that in your short or medium term memory, and you don't have to be able to synthesize. But once you get to this AP calculus, then it starts to be where you need to use all the different concepts of math together. Now, if you've learned math the right way, that's nothing new and you're totally fine. But if you've learned math in this way, unfortunately, when you now need to use something that you learned 2 years ago, since your learning style was basically just compressing it in your head, having it stay for a few months so that you can do it on a test, now you suddenly need to draw from all those and they're all missing. So that's why I said that's one of the biggest pitfalls. You basically want to be very, very careful that you're not learning this kind of outside school math through a method which is someone showing you something and practicing 10 times and then doing a quiz where each of those you use one of those methods, because that's what sets you up for the failure later. Instead, you want something where, as you're doing the math, every time it's your turn to think of how to do it, and the teacher needs to give feedback on the quality of your own ideas. If you have this, then you actually understand all of the math. And when it comes to AP calculus, no big deal. You're already now a super professional at synthesizing ideas.
So Dr. Lo, can I ask you a follow-up question?
Oh, sure.
I guess I'm a parent who's not very involved in what the kids are learning. They're pretty much, or maybe I should get involved. How do I know whether they have picked up these bad habits, as you had mentioned, or are they on the right track? How do you know before it's too late?
You can take an exam like AMC8 and then just see how they feel about brainstorming the ideas to solve the questions. Specifically, what you want to do is you want to take an AMC8, AMC10, or AMC12, and you want to see how they do on any question they have not seen before. That's the easiest test. That's how I can tell whether someone is comfortable thinking outside the box. Because what I can sometimes see is that people will look on a test like this and quickly see, okay, yes, my class taught me how to do that one, my class taught me how to do that one, my class taught me how to do that one, and I do all of those. And they are not comfortable about the other ones. So what I mean is filter out those don't count, because if you're just learning things to copy like a robot, at some point you're going to go into a place where it's not been done before. That's called real life and real job. So what you want to know is, how do they perform on the questions they do not recognize? And do they sort of enjoy thinking through them, if that makes sense? So for me, I like to build students to the point where if they see a question they don't know how to do, the reaction of the student is not, I don't know how to do it, I'm scared. Instead, it's the, that looks kind of interesting. And then see if ideas start spouting out, and see if they're kind of used to spouting out ideas or whether they're just locked.
Oh, Dr. Yeah, thanks. Dr. Lo, I have a question. Since we are mentioning AMC8, like right now, Pax joined a module 0 class. So how many classes he needs to take before taking the AMC8, or like it doesn't matter, just take AMC8 whenever he's ready and continue taking your class for more in-depth study? What's your suggestion?
Exactly. He should take AMC8 right now. He should take it this cycle.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Doesn't hurt. And the important thing is he's 5th grade. You know, 5th graders aren't supposed to get very many points. My 2nd grade daughter took AMC8 last year.
Okay.
It's fine. I mean, we just said try to solve one problem, right? The point is, when you start really young, there's no expectation. And you see what I just told to Prachi, the whole point is to make it so that the student doesn't mind thinking about things that they don't know. Ironically, the fact that that Pax doesn't already know all the concepts, that's a good thing, because then that means he can go and play with the questions. He doesn't need a high score. He's only 5th grade.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I have a question about Professor Lo. What is the difference between mass count and AMC8? Because we live in District 15. I talked with the teacher early last fall, and to apply for the mass count for the school, but I got rejected from the District 15. So in the school, my Eason is a study right now, they do not have mass counting. So what is the difference between mass count competition and AMC8? Do I really need to persistently push the District 15 to approve the mass counting?
Yes, you do. Math counts,
it's worthwhile to do it, or just I
It's-
can give it up. We can move on to AMC 8.
oh, it's very worthwhile. The reason I was talking about AMC 8 with Pax's mom is because math counts is not open to 5th grade. AMC 8 is open all the way, any age, up to 8th grade. So Pax is not eligible for math counts. So the only thing he can do is AMC 8. Once you're in middle school, the biggest tournament is math counts. You do the AMC 8 usually as practice for math counts.
Right. I want to apply for the math count
Yes.
team in the school that Ethan studied. And I talked with the teacher already, but she talked with someone in the district 15, but got rejected.
So
And
then I misunderstand, because this is actually really important. I'm glad you tried, but why does she need to apply? Is it just because it costs money to register? If it costs money to register, just pay it. It's worth it.
yeah, we can pay it. And we also said that parents can be volunteers for the
Yes.
math count, like a school
Yes.
team, but we still
Yes.
get it rejected actually.
But then why do they reject you? Because that doesn't look like they have to do
I
any
don't know
work.
I don't know the
I think
reason.
Math Olympiad requires a team. AMC 8, you can do it as individual.
That's right.
Right, but math count, we need to have a school team.
That's right. That's right. And actually, I should emphasize
Right.
that's what gives the value. The funny thing is that the school team is what creates the value for the math counts compared to the AMC 8.
Mhm.
It's just like how Pax was saying how he made some friends because he went and did advanced math together. The reason why math counts is the more important program to make sure you register for is because that creates the team environment. And that motivates, that makes each of the top students motivate each other. So that's why you should really do it. It's actually priceless. And I'm actually shocked and very disappointed if your school district said no when they weren't going to have to pay anything and they weren't going to have to do any work. Then why did they say no?
They didn't tell me the reason actually. The teacher said there are many moving pieces. So she has already talked with the district 15. We never get feedback.
But there's no moving pieces.
Right,
There's
so
just one form to submit.
Right. I think it's kind of odd, but
Yeah.
I will, because Ethan right now is in 5th grade, but he jumped 2 grade for the math. So he's at the 7th grade math class.
I see.
And so next year we can try the math count team, but it's like a team project. It's not only
That's right.
me.
That's right.
I need to get approval for the district
That's
and
right.
also from the school, so I can have a team in his school.
That's right. That's right. And actually, I want to emphasize because Prachi also said Math Kangaroo is another good one. Math Kangaroo is also individual competition. So if you see what I'm doing here, I'm saying all the individual contests, you should enter all of them anyway. Those are all good, but those are all practice for the
okay.
team competition. And also math counts, by the way, is the biggest individual competition for middle schoolers as well, because math counts is the only one out of all of them that has multiple tiers, multiple levels. School team, then the best in the schools go to the city, best in the city go to the state, best in the state go to the national, and then you find the champion. So the math counts is the biggest tournament. Actually, it's the only national tournament for well, it's the biggest one. There's another one called mathleague.org, but math counts is the biggest one. So that's the one that you should really get into. And now if you're going to have this, since you have this negotiation with school, the next thing I'll give advice for is, this is where negotiation becomes a tricky thing. You don't want them just to not like you, or else they will actually just make up some excuse and tell you no. What you want to do is you want to find a nice way of asking to go and find out, you know, what is the many moving parts, because there's just one form that needs to be submitted. Did you find that form?
I didn't actually.
I suggest you find that
I
form.
haven't found the form.
Yeah, I suggest you make it very easy. So all you need to do is you go to the Math
okay.
Counts website. There's one form. You look at the form, and the form just needs that the school says okay or something like that, right? And it can name you as the coach. That's fine too. You just need to make it so it's very clear. There's no money issue. There's no personnel issue. And here's the form. Why not? This is the best middle school math tournament in the entire country. So hopefully then they can give an answer yes. I would also recommend next year, or maybe even start now. It doesn't hurt to start now, even though the deadline passed for this year. Just start now so that no one will ever say too close.
Ethan's teacher basically helped them to prepare for the Math League competition, which will happen in February.
Mhm.
And I do not know what the difference between Math League and Math Count.
The difference is that Math Counts is significantly more prestigious. If you want to explain this to your teacher, it's very easy. What's the prize for winning Math League? What's the grand prize at the top? The grand prize for math, the grand prize for Math Counts is some multiple thousands of dollars college scholarship, and the final round of Math Counts goes on to ESPN3. So basically, what I'm trying to say is that there are easy ways to point to things that say, you know, this is actually the big prestigious one. And sometimes the reason why the school makes up a certain reason to tell you is because they don't want to tell you the real reason. The real reason might be that somebody didn't know what they were doing and chose to register for the wrong one. But you can then say, don't worry, parents can pay for this one. If it's worried about the budget, you know, you can just pay for it.
Okay, yeah, okay, I got it.
Thank you so much, Ethan's mom, for your great question. And, you know, bringing up the fact that you're advocating for your child or advocating for your own education is so important. And that's something that, you know, more parents should be doing. If that's something that, you know, a goal that you want to really see, and if your school district is not providing for it, talking to people and advocating for those things are very, very important factors that I think more Asian American parents really need to take on. So thank you so much.
Yeah, you're very welcome.
I see a couple more questions in the chat. Professor Low, when should a student move from AMC 8 to AMC 10?
Oh, you don't have to move. You can do both at the same time. That's what our kids always did. The good thing is that the AMC 8 exam is in January and the AMC 10 exam is in November, and you can do both. So the general philosophy I have is as soon as you can do, I don't know, as soon as you can understand about 20% of the questions, just go ahead and try. It doesn't matter if you get a really, really low score. As I said before, you start somewhere and then you move up. So AMC 10, by the way, I know of elementary school kids who take the AMC 10 because they feel like they can understand some of the questions already. I think that's totally fine. The main mistake people make is they assume that if the student scores poorly, the student will be discouraged. But the way to fix this is just to say, AMC 10 says 10th grade and below. You are in 5th grade. It's okay, you know, you're not supposed to ace it, just have fun.
Yeah, I think that's the mindset that I hope more of our younger listeners here really take to heart. Have fun with it. Be brave and really just give it a shot. Trying it out to see what it's like will, you know, help you be able to prepare for other things in the future, but, you know, also to see where you are at. As well as his the email and his WeChat account. And for those that, you know, have joined us in the past, you know, you can contact and find us by scanning our WeChat group on the right side as well. I think we have one more question. What math competitions are available to elementary students? I know, Professor Low, I think you mentioned some earlier.
Oh yeah, actually Prachi had mentioned Math Kangaroo, which is a great suggestion. I also like those. I find that those are very creative. Actually, why I like the Math Kangaroo ones is it includes questions that all of those training classes do not cover. That's a good thing. As you can see by now, what I think is the important thing for students to spend their time doing is working on things that are unfamiliar, where they're supposed to come up with ideas. This is why we actually partner with Math Kangaroo. We actually run their official live streamed solutions for their problems. And we chose to work with them precisely because when I looked at the questions, I didn't know how to do them right away. I'm attracted to questions where when I look at them, I say, oh, this is not some standard chickens and rabbits in the same cage problem. This is actually good. So they are good elementary school. Mathleague.org also has elementary school competitions. And that is actually the largest tournament style competition that has many different rounds. We also work with them too. And apart from those two, the rest of the elementary school competitions that I think of are just doing the AMCs or working on the math counts problems as elementary school students.
Thank you so much, Professor Low. And we have one general question. Will there be a Zoom replay of this available online?
That's a good question. I did press record, or rather I just did not press stop record. But the other problem is that I'm here in Saudi Arabia and my internet is very bad. So the recording is from my side, and I'll share this with you because I mean, I'll share this with my team who will share it with you, and then you all can decide what you want to do with it. But again, I know that the quality went in and out a few times.
That's okay. Thank you so much. And we have another more information about Professor Lowe's class and his live courses. We have that in the chat. You can find that or contact them at support@boshanlow.com. Now, I want to once again thank everybody so much for coming to our event today, and especially thank Professor Lowe and his team for being here and arranging this. And then a very, very special thanks for our parents here today. We have Ms. Tracy Pan and Ms. Prachi Kumar, as well as our students. Pax, thank you so much for speaking today and talking about your experience studying math. So I hope to see you, everybody, in the future at more of our events, and welcome Professor Lowe whenever he's, in town to visit us, coming in through Chicago. We'd love to see you here for our live event as well.
Actually, come to think of it, I am coming through Chicago on my way back from Saudi Arabia, but that's a weekend. That's a weekday, so it might not be useful for you. It's a Tuesday, so maybe I'll see you. Okay.
Yeah, maybe. Thank you so much,
Okay,
and
take care.
thank you so much, everyone here.
Thanks
Bye-bye.
all.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Professor Lowe. Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Oh.